Hello and welcome to Aufhören, der Podcast. My name is Sophia and I'm your host, and this is about the intersection of spirituality, business and feminism. Today we receive an awesome guest. Her name is Rae Dohar. Before we start and before I tell you a bit what you're gonna learn here, I want you to know that there is so much wisdom in this podcast. I want to ask you to fully show up with your brain oxygenated and an alert mind. Do not use this as entertainment, but as education. Take a pencil and a notebook. Take enough time and space while you listen, but also afterwards. Sit down and reflect on what inspired you, what triggered you, and what excited you. You can really learn a lot from this awesome piece of content here. So now, Rae Dohar works as a successful full-time sex coach. Only 7 months ago, she started her business, and this woman is making a lot of money, and she has an awesome energy. That's why I really wanted to have her in my podcast. So we talk, basically, we one of the biggest things is that we answer the questions, or she gives one answer to the question, why are yoga teachers, spiritual healers, etc. Poor? Why is it so hard for so many yoga teachers to make a living of their profession? We talk about how to build social capital. We demystify overnight success. We talk about organic engagement strategies and what makes good social media content. We talk about how to build relationships and why that matters for your business. We talk about self-worth, integrity, and excellence. We talk about self-confidence, because that's the one thing that inspires me the most about Rae, is how fierce she is to be herself, how fully she shows up as this wild woman that she is. We talk about vulnerability and about the blurry border between vulnerability and oversharing. And also, she gives a shortcut to multiple six figures. So yes, there are really, it's a really inspiring conversation, and I hope you enjoy it a lot. Okay, we're recording.
Cool.
Welcome to my podcast. It's a German name, actually. It's called Aufhören. That means quitting. Aufhören, der Podcast. Because I started it in a moment where I also quit a lot of things. So that's why it's called like this. And yeah, welcome, Rae Dohar. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's me.
I love your name. I love your black bikini. I love your mug. And I love that you and I love that we got to know each other somehow, that we are in the same like women's community, and yeah, that now you're here and you're ready to talk to me and to have my listeners hear some of your experiences and some of your wisdom.
I'm really happy too. This is very serendipitous. It's very cool.
All right, so I would like to know from you, what do you do and why do you do it?
Okay. I help individuals select their sexual expression from the realm of quantum possibility versus continuing to perform their sexual expression from the options that society gave them.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I love that you said that you bring in the quantum field, that you bring in infinite possibilities, and you do this. I mean, I
I hear you speaking in the internet in an amazing Facebook group. Um, yeah. So and sometimes you also name this as a sex coach, if you want to put a label on it. No?
Sure, I'm a sex coach. Yes.
How did you become a sex coach?
You know, I now I tell this story of what actually happened. And the truth is, it's not the story that I think people want to hear. I don't have my PhD from a prestigious school in sexology or psychology or sexual behavior. I did not join a tantric cult. I was not initiated by a master in a cave. I had a lot of sex with a lot of people. And eventually I decided that I didn't need anyone else's permission to take up space doing what I loved and doing what I was really good at, which was helping people heal their relationship to sex, to food, and to their bodies. And so that's it.
If I would ever hire a sex coach, it definitely needs to be a person who had a lot of sex. I would never hire someone who had no, I mean,
I liken it to like, if you were to go to the, like if you were to climb K2, right? It's like somebody is going to help you climb that mountain, right? And maybe there is this guy and he has his PhD in South Asian, geology studies. But there's also the Sherpa in flip-flops who never went to high school, but he's done it. He's climbed this mountain 1,000 times. And it's like, really, who do you want?
No.
I think that like intellectual acquisition of knowledge, it's actually really important. But it's not everything without embodiment, this is what it is, right? A lot of people ask the difference between therapy and coaching, and there are many, and I'm a big fan of therapy. I'm not suggesting that coaching is certainly not an alternative to therapy, but when you're a therapist, I mean, from the professional standpoint, when you're a therapist, you're leveraging your education. And when you're a coach, you're leveraging that you are the embodiment of your experience.
Yeah.
And so, they're different jobs that offer different things for different people.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting topic, sex, sexuality, the quantum field. How do we know what we want? What's going on with my body? But today we would like to focus a bit more on like the whole business side, because that's also what I'm really curious to explore more with this podcast, like how people create their jobs from their experience, and that's somehow also what you did. You didn't study it, it was not your plan, but there was a moment where you decided, so I'm going to take this space now because I allow myself to share what I know I can. When was that?
This is my 7th month in business, and it has been my full-time job since day one. And I now out earn double, triple my income that I've ever had before. So I'm very, very fortunate.
Nice. What did you do before? Did you come from a regular job?
No, I went to university for acting. I was a voiceover actor for several years, and then I ended up having a yoga studio in Vietnam. So I ran a yoga studio for 5 years in a nice little city called Saigon. It's not little, it's like millions of people, but I lived in Saigon, or sometimes it's called Ho Chi Minh City, for 5 years, and I had a yoga studio.
Wow. And how was your experience having the yoga studio, running the yoga studio?
That also fell in my lap. Really what happens in my life is like, I see something that doesn't work, and then I realize that I want to stop complaining and want to start serving. I thought that yoga wasn't happening in a way that I wanted to see it. I felt like the community aspect was so important to so many, and yet I could go into most studios in the city and no one knew each other. No one knew their names. No one, you know, I wanted a space that it's like, if you're going to teach a group class, it needs to be a celebratory environment. Otherwise, what is the purpose? I was so tired of going to studios that the group class was like, we're all having our private experience in this 1 meter, you know, piece of this room together, because then what am I paying for? And so I made most of my income actually from private sessions, because I think that movement is medicine. But just like you wouldn't go to a doctor with 10 of your friends and all take the same medication, why would you go to a yoga class with 40 people and expect that to be the practice that you need? So I was like, when we do group classes, they are to celebrate community, they're to enjoy our time together. And when we are in our one-to-ones, this is the time to make you better at the practice in accordance with your specific goals, needs, and desires. So that's what I used to do. And then when I got into sex coaching, it was a similar thing. I just didn't see people talking about things. No, I didn't see white people talking about things the way that I was talking about them. I saw a lot of undercurrents of privilege. I saw a lot of undercurrents of erasure. I saw a lot of people, a lot of identities being marginalized. And I was like, I have a lot to say about that. And then there are many, many, many Black and brown sex educators. And some of them are sex workers or like DOMs. They do something in the BDSM community, but their body of work was mostly educational and not really instructive. And then I was seeing a lot of like white women tantra teachers whose work was instructive, but not bringing in the same level of intersectionality that was happening in the sexual, that is happening in the sex education space. And I was like, I mean, there's a hole here.
Wow. That's so impressive. So you just see a hole and then you see, okay, if no one's going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can only complain about something for so long, right? So I think, and I actually run, I do some entrepreneurial mentorship. It's rare because I think that there are people who are better at coaching on this than I am. But there are certain people that are very drawn specifically to me. And actually our group, our private group where we go over some of this stuff is called the Rebel Mentor Leadership Network. And I think that, you know, anyone who's like me, archetypally, like energetically, if you are a rebel, if you're a disruptor, if you waste all of your energy rebelling against something, you never get to like be what you are. And so I think it's really important, right? Like if any listeners are like, oh, I really want to do this, but I don't know how, I really want to, if you notice yourself complaining about something all the time, that's for you. And instead of wasting your energy doubting yourself and imploding on yourself, see it for the opportunity that it is, because like you're not guaranteed, none of us is guaranteed more inspiration. And if you're hearing the call, answer the phone. Don't complain that it's a noisy ring.
Oh, I love that you say that. I feel like so many people are searching for their purpose. That's a word that I hear so often, and I'm always like, what does everybody have with their purpose? Like, why does it matter even? And yeah, why is it so hard for people to find a purpose? And I find it really beautiful what you just said, that maybe, you know, forget about the purpose. It puts a lot of pressure. Just whatever you feel your energy is drawn towards that can also be expressed in the form of complaining. Right.
Sometimes that is your purpose. But if you have all of these doubts, if you have all these limiting beliefs, like you're not going to see, like, bitch, if you knew what your purpose was, you'd already be living it. Right. And this is what I love about coaching, is that it answers the question, so now what? And so if you're looking at your life and you're like, I really want a purpose and I don't have one, you can keep telling that story and complaining, woe is me, I don't have a purpose. Or you can wake up and answer, so now what? Okay, so I don't have an obvious purpose. Where can I look next? And I think like where you look next is like, what are you complaining about?
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, and like very practically, that you woke up one day and you thought, okay, I've complained enough about the lack of these kind of sex educators and coaches that I think exist. So I'm gonna be one now. What did you do next? What were the first steps to like set up your business? What were maybe also failures you made that led you to be smarter now? So maybe you can give a shortcut to someone else. Yeah.
The foundation of everything is relationship. I engaged in an organic way on the social media platform that I felt drawn to at the time, which was Instagram, for years. This is the thing that I think a lot of people discredit, is I had social capital. And not because I was like cool or famous or had any kind of influence, because I was a real fucking person on the internet for years. And what actually happened was I created a friendship with a woman who is a fairly well-known poet on Instagram. And she had a digestive issue. And I was like, I can help you. And she was like, I'm kind of looking for like a nutritionist. And like, I dropped out of my nutrition program, so I don't get to call myself a nutritionist. And I was like, fair enough, but like, let me just talk this through with you. And because I had engaged selflessly on the internet for years and years and years, because I made my life about relationships, she trusted me. She hired me. In 5 weeks, her problem was gone. And I realized like, I'm great at this. And she was like, I would like for you to do a takeover on my Instagram. And I was like, okay. So I did. I got 3 private clients from that and 12 other people who wanted to work with me. And in 10 days, I launched my first group course. So I want to acknowledge the privilege and the luck and the timing, but also so many people are waiting for their quote unquote break. They're waiting for something to be handed to them. But I reached out to thousands of people for years with no expectation at all. And then the one time that it paid off, I got my fucking ass in gear and I built a business that I didn't know how to make, with no money, with very little time, with no resources, because I understood the opportunity for what it was. So we all get breaks in this life at some point. But again, right, I think that myth of the overnight success, it's easy to look at it and be like, well, she had that handed to her. But I didn't. I chose to reach out and build relationships with people when I had nothing to offer other than my energy and my presence. And I chose to show up and show that I was a real person and be treated like a real person. And to this day, now I have an assistant who actually helps me do this, but my growth and engagement strategy is me sitting on the phone or on the computer, actually engaging with relevant and resonant actual human beings and treating them as such every single day of my life. And there's nothing that is a better engagement strategy than being a real person. So relationships are the foundation of everything. And you don't get to come in and promise. You don't get to come in. You're never owed anything. And it's really hard for so many of us to unhook ourselves from this level of entitlement. Even if you've been on the raw end of the privilege stick, even if in a just and fair world you should be owed something, the truth is, in this paradigm, in this reality, you are not. And all you can do is keep showing up and being of service. And the person who is the most of service for the longest, the highest quality service will win. I've never seen that not be the case. So my story involved a small stroke of luck, but I had to be really ready to receive that. I had to be really ready to learn how to do a lot of things that I did not know how to do, that I was not prepared for. And I did it, you know?
Yeah. I just had this image in mind that it's a bit like a bow and arrow, that when you start maybe 7, that was when the arrow, and then of course it was very fast, but before that it was a lot of effort.
And it looks like you're going in reverse.
yeah, totally, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually use that imagery a lot. So it's funny that you say that. I say that a lot to people.
And I also like what you say about the like social media engagement strategy. I sometimes listen to like business advice, like just business advice about social media, because maybe I get something out of it, and sometimes I do. But in the end, I think what you said, the social aspect or the being human, it's a human experience, né?
It's called social media, right?
Yeah. And I think somehow, like, of course, it matters a lot what energy you put out there. And if you have like just a strategy behind that, you go and like all the pictures, or you go and put like emojis in all the pictures, but you're not really engaging with your energy, with your attention in a conversation or something, it's gonna lead nowhere, I think. And that's also the investment you make, what you said, né? That it takes a lot of time and effort to like read what other people are saying, to think about what you think about it, and then to comment it and all that. And
you need to have something already to offer people. So if you're a new Instagram, if you're a new business and you have 4 posts, look, I'm a big fan of market research, but do not ask people what you should post until you've created so much content. I hate this new business advice so many coaches give. It's like, just ask. But it's like, if you have no clients, if you have no social capital, you're asking people for something before you've given them anything. And every new client I'm like, sure, ask your friend, ask me. Like if I have a business client, right, that's what you pay me for. But if you strike gold and you strike up a real conversation with me, and many people come into my DMs and they're like, oh, I think you're going to love my friend. She does this and this. And I will take the time to look. I am, and I go to her profile and it's all just recycled memes. And I don't even know who this person is. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know what her, you should be able to hand your social media to anyone, and they can choose any post and understand what you're about, what your voice is, the kinds of people who are drawn to you, the kinds of people who are repelled. So it's like, if you're doing organic engagement and you're not getting the followers that you want, or you're not growing your audience in a way that is helpful, it's because your content is not clear. It's because you don't have enough of it, right? If you were born after 1980, we're a binge culture, right? I want to look and I want to see 20 posts. I want to binge you. And if you have 4 posts, you just have to understand the psychology of how most people work. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can trust it. She doesn't have enough posts. Is she going to be worth my follow? Yeah. And so it's really important that you handle both sides of it. And remember to go back to what we said about it being social media. Your content is your voice in this conversation.
Yeah.
It's not just your likes and your comments. It's also what your content is, what you're contributing to the conversation. And I should be able to look at that and within 3 seconds, really know who you are.
Yeah, even though I have to say, with one thing, I'm not sure if I agree with the binge part, né? Because I like to do things slow, and even if sometimes I like to allow myself to be slower than my mind thinks is okay. And I tried to, pressure myself and be like, okay, I have this like fair fashion hand knitted sweater company. And I really tried to like set up a social media strategy and to post every day, but I just couldn't. And I rather don't post every day, but when I post from, that it's a nice post and it comes with a good energy and I really mean it and I have something to say. And so I think
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think if you only have a couple posts, you can't expect the same kind of growth as to when you have more. I'm saying set a realistic timeline for yourself and don't look at someone who already has 10,000 followers and 400 posts and have the expectation that you'll be able to have the same kind of traction. That's what I mean. Now I can go send somebody one DM or engage on one post and they might follow me. But in the beginning, maybe I would have had to do that 5 or 6 times and really offer a genuine, because they can't look at my profile and see who I am. I completely agree. Holding yourself to a posting schedule before you're really ready, before your message is really like, it's not, you're right, you're just going to put out fast fashion content, right? Like fast food kind of content. But I think you have to be realistic about at what level are other people then you have to be willing to put out more in comments, likes, DMs, and like relationship if you have less to offer in terms of your content marketing.
Yeah. In the end, also, maybe what you're saying is there's no shortcuts. There's no hidden possible. Strategy doesn't mean that you can cheat, no? And then I'm curious to know, like, because that's also my approach a bit, you know, sometimes I think I'm doing the same on Instagram that you used to do, you know, I just like, now it's slowly a bit more coming to a shape, like what I do, that I know, oh my God, that's what I have to offer. And I'm preparing some like things to actually sell and stuff. But it was a long time just me saying my opinion about things that matter to me, asking other people, hey, what do you think? And going around on Instagram saying, hey, I think you are cool. Wow, I love you. And just like this, no? And sometimes I also think a lot like, fuck the algorithm. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be a slave to the algorithm. Like, I have Guru Jagat in mind, of course. Let success surrender to you. Let you never surrender to success. And that's why also, you know, who knows if, I mean, now TikTok is also cool, and maybe Instagram will be gone in half a year. We don't know. Maybe something else will be there. So I also like to be drawn to where I feel pleasure, what I enjoy, because I know that I can do this good. And right now, or not every day, but most of the days, I enjoy sharing an Insta story or just sitting there talking, me and my face on the phone. I enjoy it. I like this. And that's why I do it.
I think, though, it's really important that when you it's really important to note this, when you take the mindset of fuck the algorithm, you actually override the algorithm, because the entire purpose of the algorithm is to keep people on the apps longer. And as a viewer, what is going to keep me on the app longer? The fact that you put out specific content at a specific time, or the fact that you showed up in alignment? Right? Alignment will trump strategy any day. Yeah. Ideally, you want both, right? Like, but if you're going to choose one, what is the point of being like, I'm really passionate to share now, but the peak hour is in 90 minutes. Well, I might not want to share in that, right? So it's the function of the algorithm. Now you can go point by point and take issue with certain things you don't like, but the function of the algorithm is to keep people on social media. And if you can just keep that mindset, it will always work for you, right? Like, don't I want people in my Facebook group all day liking and commenting on each other's posts? And all that it reminds me to do is that, okay, if it's just getting louder and it's just getting more complex, I just need to get clearer and more excellent at what I do. It invites me to get better. And isn't that what we want?
Yeah, totally. That's what I want.
To just like keep getting better. And underneath the sort of like tactics, which you hinted at, right? Instagram could go away tomorrow. And if it did, I would not worry for a second, because I didn't waste all of my time obsessing over the specificity of Instagram. I invested my time and energy in learning timeless sort of principles about how to have relationships, how to sell things, how to market. Like, these things will never change. They'll just adjust slightly to the platform. And I think you touched on something really important about being like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm passionate about. If there's anything that I think is a shortcut, know exactly what you bring to the table and get really good at that. You can hit 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, just off of Instagram stories. I launched my first course. Like I said, I got 12 people in 10 days just off of Instagram stories. I didn't know how to, I actually can do coding. I learned when we were kids, but I don't have good visual taste. So I can make a website, and I have, but it's not really what I'm good at, right? I know that I'm a better writer than most people, and I'm a very captivating speaker. And so I focus on getting in front of the people and being this. If you're a really shy person and you trip over your words, but you're great at putting things into an email, build your mailing list. If it scares you to be on camera, but you love speaking, make a podcast. If you don't like doing either of those things, but you have great ideas, make a bulleted fucking list. People will resonate with your truth. So if you are starting a business, you don't have any money, you can't afford a coach, you can't afford a team, do what you're really good at and do a lot of it. Ride that train to 6 figures and then hire people so you never have to do the shit you don't want to do again. If there's a shortcut, I think it's that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's so important to know yourself, to know what you're good at, and also to know what you're not good at. And I think it's also a complete coaching mindset that you have now. And by the way, I'm also a life coach. I have a certificate. But yeah, to become better in what you're already good at, and focus on your strengths and do that more instead of trying to dissolve your weaknesses.
Yes.
Focus on what you're not good at. But many people do this. I think I also sometimes do it. Of course, everybody does it, but it's not as fun.
Well, there's a time okay, so I'll use an example from my own coaching strategy. Mostly in coaching, a lot of the way that it's changing, as you know, but a way that a lot of people see coaching is like, start where you are and grow to where you're going. And my strategy is start with the field of quantum possibility, pick anything you want, and we'll get there. Along the way, inevitably, you will face every limiting belief, every block you have, every weakness. It will come up. That's the only way you become that version of yourself. There's not all roads lead to Rome, baby. So from that perspective, right? It's like, start with where you're going and then focus on getting there and let things organically come up. So yes, I went through growing my business at an exponential rate, and I had to learn really fucking quickly to become the version of myself who could be on top of my finances. And that's something that generationally my family has not been great at. And so I had to learn skills that I didn't know I needed, that I never thought I would have to have, but because I was running on the momentum of my desire, it was worth it for me to do the work. Versus, like you're saying, if you just get caught up on all your weaknesses and use that as an excuse for why you can't begin, you'll never have the motivation to break through those blocks. To use a different example, I coach on food as well. People coach on sex and not food, but for me, they're very linked. And the thing that sutures them together is your hormone health. And so I coach a lot around food. And so when I give my clients something that first week, am I gonna, I know, because I'm great at my job, I know probably within like a 10% buffer exactly what they're gonna feel best eating, exactly what the solution to their problem is. Am I gonna give them all of that up front and blow up their heads? No, because I'm setting them up to fail. It's too much change too quickly, and it's a lot to navigate suddenly. Instead, I'm like, okay, cut out this, increase this, do this. Something very simple, because I'm certain that they will experience a positive result within 4 days. Now, if you've been going to the functional medicine doctor, to the endocrinologist, if you have maybe a therapist, if you have done this diet or that, and it all feels like nothing's working, and I give you something really simple that gives you momentum, suddenly you believe in yourself. And suddenly you believe that is possible. And I think so many new entrepreneurs, especially, get caught up in all the things I can't do. And it's like, just focus on that one thing you can do and give yourself a win. Because when you believe in yourself, you can face the challenges of growth. But if you don't, you can't. Am I being too much? Am I too intense?
Not too much. Before we touch up on the topic of money, which I think is very important. I love money. I think everybody should talk more about money. Because you mentioned now several times relationships are so important, né? And I mean, that's also what sex is about a lot, né? Can you give a few, I mean, just what you're doing all the time, né? What is the thing that's maybe the what you just described, what you sometimes give your clients for the food topic? What can that be for a relationship for most of the people? Now, when someone is now listening who's self-employed, starting an own business, or just alive, and they feel like, yes, okay, I want to improve my relationships. Like, what's the one puzzle piece that can break the pattern that you see is happening very often that's getting wrong in relationships?
Okay. Like romantic relationships?
Doesn't matter. Is there a difference?
No, actually, but I'm going to use the example of romantic relationships. What we do when we're dating doesn't prepare us to maintain a long-term relationship at all. What you did in your corporate job or what you did working for someone else does not prepare you for the work of entrepreneurship at all. They're the same. You're right. They're not different, but I'll use the romantic example. You get on Tinder, you swipe, you send some messages, you hide a part of yourself. I'm going to use a cis hetero example where I'm a woman and it's a man, but it can be, that's just an example. I bring the guy home. He wants to do me from behind. I don't say anything, even though I don't like that. And I play my porn star self and I play the greatest hits and I sublimate my needs and I do what he thinks I should do. And then I am disappointed. And then one day when I'm done with this, I wake up and I want a partner to meet all of my needs. And I want a partner to understand exactly what I'm looking for. And I want a partner who is my equal in every way. And I have no fucking idea what that looks like or how to communicate that without sounding like a troll. So I think the biggest problem that we're facing, or masturbation, I talk about this a lot in my Facebook group. If you're masturbating and you spend 90 seconds on yourself at the end of a long, hard day, how is that preparing you for the kind of sex that you want to be having with a partner? How many women, again, using a cis example, we are both women, but how many women say, oh, he rushes with me. He doesn't take his time with me. He never tries anything new. Well, if I were a fly on the wall while you were doing it with yourself, what would I see? Would I see that you spent so much time with yourself? Would I see that you were trying new things all the time? Would I see that you treated yourself like a queen? So then what can we really expect from others? And so I guess whatever relationship it is, your family, your sexual partners, your job, your colleagues, whatever, is like, think about that quantum field of possibility and what you want. And then ask yourself, am I practicing that now? Am I preparing for that now? Because if you're not, you're setting yourself up for a lot of extra work. Because you'll never have any of that without becoming the version of yourself who can be in the having of it. And I think that's kind of the big, okay, so what I always say to my clients is like, if you want to have a quantum shift, you have to shift into the quantum. Which means that you're always living in the eternal present moment, which means that I can practice anything now. I can feel anything now. And from that place, it's so much easier to see new opportunities, and it's also so much easier for you to handle them when they come into your life. It's also, I call this the paradigm within my clients, I call this the paradigm of achieving versus becoming. If you are obsessed with and validated by the achieving, anything you achieve, you can lose. Maybe you do find that perfect partner, and, you know, touch wood, I hope, you know, blessed be to them, but maybe they pass, right? We don't know. Maybe you do achieve that amazing job, and then your company restructures, or COVID happens, like at the time of this recording, and suddenly you don't have that amazing job. And anything that you achieve, if that's where your self-worth goes, when you lose it, you'll be destroyed. Shifting to the quantum means living in the version of yourself who is in the becoming of having that which you desire. Which is to say, it's devastating for me to lose a partner. It's so sad for of course, like like a death, but also a relationship to transition, or like a breakup. Of course, it's devastating to maybe lose a client. Or if I lost everything tomorrow, I have become the version of myself whose life is abundant, whose life is full of love, whose life is full of resonance. And while I would really mourn and grieve the loss of everything, it wouldn't rattle my worth.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's so beautiful. I cannot wait to quote you.
Thank you. I love being quoted.
Oh, you said so many things, and I was in my mind repeating it slowly to really like burn it into. Yeah, but I guess that also translates into business. That the way is that we embody what we want to become now and in every moment. So it's about becoming and not achieving. And I think this word achieving, I think it sounds awful.
And people act like they're not interested in achieving, but the truth is, like, that's still where your self-worth is.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Conceptually, like, always achieve. It's like something else is always outside of me. Something else, you know, the big spiritual daddy in the sky telling me that I was a good girl. And like, eventually you have to not need that if you want any level of impact. Or you can have all of it, but you would be like that person, right? Like if you're focused on achieving and not becoming, I could hand you $1 million right now. Now, of course, if you haven't become the one who can be with $1 million, you'll make bad investments, you'll blow it all, or you can have it, but you'll be that hoarder that's so scared of losing it that you never enjoy what you have. And then what was the purpose of the achievement if not to feel pleasure and joy and gratitude and love for the having of it?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can still like get things by achieving. And what does it mean?
Yeah, but the actual achievement should always be that you became the person who could achieve it.
And I think especially if you have a large female audience, again, not to make generalizations, but it is a pattern that I see. A lot of women are not motivated by achievement. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, oh, well, that's why I can't have a business, or this just isn't for me because you have to be obsessed with making money, or no. It's so much more exciting to think about becoming the version of yourself who has made that money, becoming the version of yourself who has done these things, who has had this impact, who has created these products or services. That's the interesting work. I don't think many heart-centered people are excited by achieving. And I think that's why so many of them don't start. And they continue to feed these narratives of money is the root of all evil. And if you have any power at all, you'll just contribute to oppression. It's empirically false.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this. because this is what I like, the core of what I would like to explore in the podcast. Why are yoga teachers poor? How can we have more business in the spiritual world and more in the
Yeah,
business
so
world?
I got into business entrepreneurship because specifically I mentored yoga teachers for several years, because I made really good money being a yoga teacher.
And by the way, I think it's not just yoga teachers, it's also Reiki healers, and it's just an example.
Yes. And I think you're right. Like but I do want to say, for anyone wondering, I made my yoga money without ever teaching a yoga teacher training. So there's a current belief right now that says the only way you can be successful as a yoga studio is to run a YTT, and I never did. So that's not true. Or you have to be famous. And when I was a yoga teacher, I had fewer than 1,000 followers on social media. I had about 1,000 people on my Facebook page. Like, that was it. Not to say that that's not nothing, but I mean, I was a local yoga celebrity. That's it. People in Saigon knew who I was because I'm white and I have red curly hair. And because I was fucking excellent at what I did. And I think that a lot of these Reiki trainings, a lot of these yoga trainings, because these are people who want to churn out graduates so that they can make more money to keep their doors open. Most people in the spiritual community, this is like not what anyone wants to hear. This is a very unpopular opinion. Most people in the spiritual community are not particularly good at what they do. I don't understand why that's an unpopular opinion, because you spent a month learning something. Why would you be good at that? How dare you have that expectation? I know more about anatomy and physiology and biomechanics and functional movement than any yoga teacher, except for maybe my own mentees, who I made learn a lot of it, because I wanted to get better at yoga. So I became a massage therapist so I could learn more about the body. And I don't see other yoga teachers out there doing that. I think everyone internalizes the belief that no one will pay me, so I don't get to be any better. And then you have to teach that many classes, or you have to do that many Reiki sessions, or you have to give that many massages, or whatever it is, until you're at the point of burnout and you can't charge anymore and you blah, 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 blah. If you offer a superior product or service and you hold the vision and you stand in your worth for long enough, people will pay. So like, I had people come to my studio, and to give a reference for price, right? So I was in a country in the global South. I was not in New York. I was not in Melbourne. I charged $15 for a group class. And in the beginning, the exchange rate changed. In the beginning, it was about 12. But people came in and they would say, yeah, but you can go to that studio down the street. They only charge $2.50. I would say, I am not a freshly caught lobster, so market value doesn't mean anything to me. And after some time, and yes, I sat in my living room alone and I took other jobs because I was like, I will never devalue this. If I have to get another job, if I have to have a side hustle to my side hustle, I will do anything else, but I will never devalue this. Never again. And when I did that, it left me the energy to be excellent. And it gave me the money to continue to invest in getting better at what I did. And so if you're teaching 20 hours a week, if you're doing 30 Reiki sessions a week, you're not good at what you're doing. You are burnt out. I know you do not have the time to be investing in your spiritual practice, to be setting aside time for meditation. And so why would I pay you more? So I think it's really about, underneath all of that, it's a read, it's not something people want to hear, but underneath all of that is self-worth. Know what your time is worth. Know what your transformation is worth. Know what your skill set is worth, and do everything that you can to get better so that you don't have to keep devaluing yourself. That makes me nervous to say. I know how many people don't want to hear that.
I love what you say. I'm like, my background is that I'm a German engineer. So I really, really like quality. I love quality, and I love what
I used to live in Stuttgart. I love quality too.
Oh, nice. That's so cool. My sister lives in Stuttgart right now. But anyways, I think, and that's also how I kind of can trust in my path and the path of my business, even in this early stage where I don't know, okay, will I become a millionaire in half a year, or how is it going there? Because I know that I will forever focus on having a really, really good product. That's my focus. That I want.
Integrity will always win.
Yeah. And then I can also stand there and do the marketing and do the pricing and say that with a smile on my face and with an open heart, and I can say, hey, I have this to sell and I think it's really great. Nah? Why do people have a problem with marketing themselves or their products? It's maybe because they think that they're not 100% convinced that it's really also good enough. Nah?
Yes, thank you. I feel like no one talks about that. You don't want to sell because you don't believe in what you're selling.
Yeah.
And because you don't really want it, because you're like, oh God, if I have 5 more private clients on top of what I'm already doing, I will die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe here we can also turn the conversation into something a bit more like soft. It's not saying that these are all like shit people. No, certainly, like they are heart-led humans more than, and I think it's great qualities to have. And I think the solution out of it can be way more soft than we think. It's actually listening to what you need and what you want, and being like gentle with yourself, fulfilling your dream. And I also love this aspect you mentioned many times. It's a bit patience. Give yourself the time. Of course, after one yoga teaching, no, but then find a way. How can you do a second yoga teaching? What else do you like? Can you combine yoga with something else? Like, how can you make it happen? And then also putting the ego aside, and either being okay with having a little less money as long as you're learning, or having another job maybe, no?
That having less money while you're learning. The problem with this is that yoga teachers, etc., in the spiritual community don't treat their business like it's a business. Mm-hmm. Why would you expect to spend 100% of your income in your business in the first year? I pay myself now like $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And the rest of my money goes into my business.
Yeah.
And I think that there is this belief that it's like, oh, I work so hard, I should get to have this money. If you treat yourself like an actual business, that's not when they start cutting the check, right? Like that's not a sustainable strategy. And of course, in the beginning, when you're really only making enough to live, as you said, you have a choice. Either you're investing more time in getting better at something, and then investing more money and investing other time in having like another job, or you're investing more time in getting better at something and you're having less because you're investing more money in it. You know, you have to accept that that's the truth.
Yeah.
And that might make, and if you're doing that and being gentle with yourself, then you have to be realistic about what that timeline is. And that's like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and also there it's about becoming, and that's a process, nah? So can you enjoy? That's what I'm asking, or what I am practicing right now, is also to have this humbleness and to enjoy where I am now. It's okay that today, I mean, I wake up and I feel like I'm becoming this, and that's why I'm super excited. But I'm not yet. I did not became my podcast is not yet the most well-known podcast in Germany around spirituality and business. But I think I'm becoming it. And while I am becoming this, I have a lot of fun holding that vision.
Also, there's something, they always say, another level, another devil. Like every time you grow yourself, you'll have a different kind of problem. You'll have to become a different version of yourself. But also every level of your business there's something that is so sweet that will go away. Like I knew when that first couple years in yoga, if I kept my studio, like there would be a day that I wouldn't know every single person. There would be a day that I wouldn't know every single person's goal, that I'd be like, oh, your shoulder's tight today. Like there's so much sweetness in that. There will be, right now, I'm transitioning into the day where I do not respond to every single message I receive by myself. Now we're very transparent about when that's happening, but I don't have every single interaction to myself. And there's a part of me that grieves that.
Yeah.
And in every step of the becoming, you mourn the loss of what was. And so when you're in the having of that version of yourself, like find the sweetness, like you said, right? Like that soon it's just going to be wild. And there's going to be so many applications and people are going to be begging you to be on the podcast. And there's going to be this long queue and you're going to maybe have advertisements and maybe have a strategy. And maybe now we can't talk about this because we have too many people and it's like such a blessing to know that like it won't be this way forever and I should really do what I can to enjoy it now.
Yeah. And I think you also touched on something very important that I think is also maybe one of the reasons why yoga teachers are poor, yoga teachers being XYZ, and that's that they lower the prices, they lower the standard. And I've worked in the fashion industry, and there I experienced how shit it is when the whole industry cuts the branch they are sitting on.
Yes.
And that's what I hope that in the future, like energy workers, healers, people who really work with their heart and put all their energy in where they at now with a client or with a product, with whatever, that they are also the ones who get the most money. But then it's again what you said, that we have to be that now already, and also say,
right.
I'm not going to work for free. I'm not going to give a free Instagram yoga class because everyone is doing it. If you want to join my yoga class, it's 10 euros. Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, unfortunately, it starts with you. Yeah. In order to, anytime somebody's talking about, for example, the algorithm or the industry or the market or the economy, all of these things are made up of by people. I mean, the algorithm is based on human behavior and everything else is, the economy is people, right? Like you can't continue to live like there's this nameless, faceless power that dictates to you your worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I used to tell people, because people would call my studio and be like, do you give away a first class free? And I would be like, what's your job? I'm a dermatologist. Do you give free consults to your patients for their first time? No. Okay, I'll see you. Bring $15. Like, so much of it is just what is expected. Or now, unfortunately, I do still deal with some level of harassment, some level of usually men coming into my DMs and giving me really intimate shares about their lives or kind of like flirting with me. And I have to remember that, like, if I were a doctor, they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't, also friend price. If you're an entrepreneur, you'll go through the phase, oh, can I have friend price? To which I always say, yeah, you want to pay me double because you're my friend? Like, who's the friend here, right? Like, who's being the good friend here? Like, what do I owe you as my friend? So I just think all of it starts with you, and you can't let society or the market or the economy or the whatever dictate what you're worth, what your products are worth, what your time is worth. And if you just keep showing up with integrity and excellence and you're really unwilling to compromise in that, people get on board.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love our conversation. I really feel like I'm on my way and I'm on the right path. I want to continue. And I guess I have like a personal question. So, you're so confident or you seem very confident. Nah? So I have two questions. Like, one is, why are you so confident? Like, what do? You have a great affirmation. You look in the mirror and you say 10 times, "I'm amazing."
No.
And also, and this maybe also touches on your answer. And I'm sure that you're not always so confident, and you also have moments where you feel insecure. And I would be very curious and very happy if you would like to share with us, like, how do you navigate moments where you feel insecurity? How do you transform your insecurity into the radiance that you are having?
Growing up, I was bullied a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I mean, now, like, these kids' parents would like be facing charges. Like, it was bad. I was bullied. I was harassed. I was like physically assaulted. Like, I was bullied a lot. And for me personally, learned from a very young age that I needed to be myself more than I needed to be liked. Now, as an adult, there is a social justice component to this. There's an identity component to it, especially in the United States. I know your listeners have certainly a different construct of gender and racial identity, and globally it's very fluid. But specifically in the United States, white women get to have all of the privilege of whiteness and none of the like aggression associated with maleness. And so like we're sugar and spice and everything nice, and we get our self-worth from our likability. Mm-hmm. And when you do this, when you as a white woman, when I as a white woman prioritize my likability over my integrity, I am further marginalizing other people, Black and brown women, trans people, queer individuals. I'm further marginalizing people who are further from the ability to pass as likable. So a lot of my likability, or my potential for likability, at least in the United States, again, I know it's different everywhere, is intrinsic in my like, all of my likability is associated with a lot of just like my privilege and a lot of stuff that wasn't my choice. So now I really see my being polarizing as a political act and a conscious choice that I make. But again, really what it comes down to is I need to be myself more than I need to be liked. In terms of showing up with insecurity or vulnerability and how I check myself, the short answer to that, and I say this to my clients all the time, is get out of your ass and get into service. Mm-hmm. I need to be myself more than I need to be liked, and I need to be of service more than I need to be confident in this moment. I've had experiences, this is like quite personal, but I've had experiences in my meditation where I felt and I saw in my mind's eye the other people who are so frustrated with how their relationships are going, other people with digestive problems that no one will listen to, other people who want to work with a coach, but nobody looks like them, nobody includes them, nobody talks to them. And I felt these people almost praying me or wishing me or calling me into being. I felt all of these people waiting for someone to answer to this. And like, when I'm feeling like shit, and when I'm feeling insecure, when my face is broken out, and when I don't know what to say, like, I think about that. Mm-hmm. And I think like somebody needs to hear what I have to say more than I need to hide my face and not say it. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing is like, get support. I've had the same best friend since I was 9 years old. And I have a very intimate circle of people I will completely fall apart in front of. Mm-hmm. I have my core group of people. I also pay people. I've had the same life coach for 6 years. I also have a business coach. And if I want to fall apart, I fall apart there. Not in front of my audience that makes me look like they can't trust me, because I'm still excellent at what I do, even if I'm falling apart somewhere else, right? It's not that I'm performing something, it's that I chose to step into a position of leadership, and I need to lead confidently in order to carry my work and my role with a level of integrity and responsibility. It's not that it's fake, it's actually more honest for me to continue to show up as an expert, because I'm an expert every day, even if I only feel confident 4 days out of the week, or 5 days out of the week, or 1 day out of the month. And so have your support network. Don't fall apart in front of your mom if your mom doesn't support your work. Don't fall apart in front of your partner if your partner doesn't really have any, if your partner is threatened by your success and that's actually a point of tension in your relationship. Have people that you can really lose it in front of, who will just believe in you and who will just trust you. And actually, you know, as a relationship coach, a lot of the time it's not your spouse, especially if your relationship is linked with your money. Because if suddenly you're freaking out about your career, your husband has skin in the game. If suddenly you quit your job and you're not bringing in that money, or you don't want to do it, like, it's going to trigger them out. It's going to make it's going to add. So really have people that you can trust that are just in your corner and that'll build you back up because they believe in you and they're not like triggered by your upset. And then, you know, get out of your ass and into service. I think that's really, and don't be held back by the fact that people aren't going to like you. You know, I'm lucky. I got to learn when I was 6 that people didn't like me. And some people figure it out, you know, the first time they turn on their Instagram. It doesn't really get easier, if I'm honest. I posted about this. I was recently harassed, and I talked about, you know, every time this happens, my hands shake. Every time. It doesn't really get, or it hasn't for me necessarily gotten easier. But it's really important, until you get to the point that you can pay someone to do that for you, to clear your field for more space. I think though, to a point, it's actually important to like take a couple hits, because it reminds you of the importance of your work. You really see the kind of thinking that exists in the collective, and you're not in your like social media bubble of other people who think like you, which, by the way, your social media is not, you're not serving yourself. If you're listening to this and your social media is an echo chamber, you need to follow people who don't look like you, people who don't think like you. Need to understand. I think it's a huge asset to learn, you know, more than just your niche and how that's looking. Also, it makes you feel like you can't make any content because you're like, everything's already been said, right? Like it's not really a great system. But it's important, yeah, when those don't go looking for people to hate you, but when it happens, to take stock and to remember, wow, people still talk like this. My work is really important.
Yeah, it's a big world to become aware of the different opinions. Yeah, because the bubble, it's a thing, and it's good to have the bubble and to be in the bubble, but it's also good to be aware of the fact that there is a bubble.
Yes. Again, I mean, I'm not following like white supremacy gun groups or something like that, but like I'm following other people who share positive and constructive content. It's just not necessarily like geared toward me. And so, yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. It's like, keep your vibe high, but like diversify what you're looking at, so that it doesn't become an echo chamber.
And I love also what you said with, I think Brené Brown talks about it sometimes, that the fine line and the balance between vulnerability and oversharing. No?
Somebody said this, and I don't remember who. It's share your scars and not your wounds, right? When you can make a lesson from it, when that becomes of value, right? If you're running a business, your social media is not about you. It's about your clients. It's about your customers. It's about your patients, depending on what your job is. And so it's like, when you can turn that personal experience into something of value for them, by all means, share it. It humanizes you. But if you fall apart in front of everyone, we're just watching and seeing, oh, I can't really trust her. Like, she doesn't really have her shit together. I don't like, if I came into my doctor's, again, holding yourself to that standard, if I came into my doctor's office and she broke down and started crying in front of me, I would be like, oh, wow, like, this isn't really what I was here for. And I guess the last piece, I say this all the time, I keep it on a Post-it note in front of my window that I see every day. And I say this a lot, and it's really medicine for me to remember it, is that nobody who's judging you is doing more than you.
Yeah.
So if your friend is criticizing your business model, I would look to his career right now and be like, is he stuck there? Is he really happy at his job? Is he really living his purpose? Okay, if he's not, I don't want to hear it from him. If your mom is criticizing your relationship, look to her marriage. Not saying she's not happy in her marriage, but like, do I want what she has? No, then I need not to listen. Nobody who is judging you is doing more in that area of their life than you are, period. Because if they were doing more, they wouldn't have time to judge you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like, I don't have time to have opinions about what other people are doing. I'm really focused on myself. And, I ask people, like, whatever field they're in. I had a client who really loves The Rock. I too really love The Rock, but I did an exercise with her, and she was like, I don't know, like people don't trust me. She's wildly overqualified, by the way. So imposter syndrome affects everyone. She has a doctorate degree. She's incredibly intelligent. She's the whole package. But in that day, in that session, she was experiencing her imposter syndrome. And I was like, visualize for me a conversation with The Rock. So take your mentor, take whoever they are, really picture yourself in the room with them and tell them, yeah, I got this new idea. I want to start this new online platform, and I want it to be a membership site, and I want to talk about this, this, and this, and I want to offer this. Do you think they're going to look at you and be like, that's such a dumb idea. The world doesn't need that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I always think about you, and I feel like I'm such an imposter and I don't know enough and I can't tell. Like, The Rock is a great example, right? What happened when he transitioned from being a wrestler to being an actor? Everyone was like, you don't know anything. You're terrible at this. You're so stupid. How dare you? How entitled? Oh, you're so. And had he listened, that whole second phase of his career never would have happened. And so everyone that you admire, that you respect, that you look up to has their own version of your story, of your imposter syndrome, of your self-doubt. And if you really imagine, or if you're very affluent, or you can maybe talk to them, you can hire them if they're in business and they sell something that you can, whatever, maybe you can meet them somehow. But if not, certainly for free, within your mind's eye, you can really think about it. Would Brene Brown, would Oprah tell me, would Glennon Doyle tell me, don't write that book? That sounds so stupid. The last thing we need is another woman writing a book. Of course not.
And I think this can also be like the support system you were talking about, no? The people you can, because not everybody has like friends since so long, or not everybody has the deep feeling of trust in the friendships they have. Or in the relationships they have.
Because you can still have a friend who's a really good friend, but if, for example, he's really triggered about money, if he hasn't healed that, if he doesn't have a good mindset around it, you're right. That's a really good point. I'm very, very lucky to have really wonderful friends. But yeah, if you can't trust them in that arena, don't. Yeah. Think about Marie Forleo. Think about, like whoever those people are, like they can be your friend. Listen to their podcasts.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great advice. Yeah. There's one thing I want to share with you also, because I just noticed that I was thinking about it quite a lot since you mentioned something like 5 minutes ago or something. Yeah, since 5 minutes, I have the same thing in my mind. So I need to share it now. I cry on Instagram. Am I a bad life coach?
No. I think it depends. Again, it's like, can I share something that is really emotional for me, that moves me to tears, without burdening my audience, right? Without I'm not falling apart, right? What makes you cry, that spectrum of your feelings, that's different from person to person. You might cry really easily. You might cry really freely. And it's actually, you crying on Instagram is not that vulnerable for you in the grand spectrum of your emotional experience, right? But if you're,
I do that intentionally. I'm not crying on Instagram because I'm begging for someone to come and say,
please somebody tell me, please somebody message me and tell me, no, there's a difference between strategically showing up in vulnerability that is humanizing.
Yeah.
But when you flip over and now suddenly you're the client and you're treating your social media like they're your coach, I think that's when we've gone too far.
Yeah. No, that's not what I'm doing. So I'm happy. I'm doing this because I think there should be crying should be normalized. And I think, and I want to break a bit very intentionally, this pattern that in Instagram, there's only the nice stuff shown.
The perfection, yeah.
Yes.
But that's showing a wound, it's showing a scar and not a wound. That's showing something that you have taken a lesson from.
Yeah.
And embodying the lesson.
Yeah.
That's really different. I mean, that's very masterful. And I think in the beginning of a business, learning to have any level of vulnerability at all is so hard. And so it's so scary to show anything that's not perfect. It's so scary to, and so to do that, it's really masterful. I think that's very strategic, and it's really, you're right, what people need to see. I think there's a point at which if you coach around food, if you're a food coach and you have a midnight binge because you're really triggered by something that's happening in your life and you're crying and spooning ice cream into your mouth while your mascara is running down your face, maybe don't live stream that. But maybe 3 days later or 1 week later or 1 month later, you can say, hey, I want you to know that I'm still in this with you. Just the other day, I had this experience, and this 1, 2, 3 step process is what I did to get me back on track, to make me feel resonant in my body, to make me feel back connected into my self-love, right? That's a lesson.
Yeah.
And if maybe while I shared that, I was choked up, whether because I was really sad at what I had been experiencing or whether I was choked up with gratitude at how far I had come, that's not the point. I'm there to share something that is of value. It doesn't really matter what my emotional life is doing. I'm doing something out of service and not out of need.
And I think also, with all of these things, it's how you say, it's masterful. It's an art. It's something you need to practice. And it's a balance that wants to be maintained. And I think it's important to say that you can also fail. You can overshare today and make the decision that tomorrow you're going to hit the point, because today
I just did that. I actually just did that. So when I switched to coaching, I was in a relationship and I had pictures of my partner, and there continued to be pictures of my partner I have a whole highlight reel that's called Boyfriend, of just like hilarious things that he did. And really recently, I didn't I kind of tripped into coaching. I'm very fortunate, but that is what happened. And I had to come up with the strategy and the scaffolding later. And only very recently did it occur to me that actually sharing details of my partner's life was not something that I wanted to do. I no longer wanted to share anything about my relationship status, about who my partners were as people, about nothing. And so I did that, but I made a really authentic post that said, hey, when I got into this, I hadn't really thought about it. And now I don't think that's appropriate anymore.
Yeah. So it's okay to fail today, and
it's necessary to fail, right? What is it's an opportunity to learn.
I also had another thing in mind that I just got reminded again, and I think I want to share this because I think it's very important. When we talked about the money earlier, that it also, building a business just takes time. And I've worked in a really big fashion company, and I was there in a phase where it was a startup, a really small startup. We were 20 people, and then I was there when there were 5,000 people. So I went through this transitioning kind of. I was part of building a proper business, not a solopreneur, and I've experienced this. And actually, these businesses, also Google, also Amazon, I don't know, these proper businesses, they also don't make money from the first year. It's many hundreds or many people investing a lot, investing, working hours, putting energy, putting focus. And maybe it takes years until they actually start being profitable. Ne? So translating this into a solopreneur business, of course, you don't need to take a $200,000 loan from the bank to start at all, but it takes time. Ne? Also in business, it takes time. That I just had this idea, and I never thought about it in that way, that actually every business takes a while until it's profitable.
I used to say like the same thing a couple months ago. My financial situation was very different than it is now. It happened, like you said, you release the arrow and it happens really quickly. But then I was like so ashamed and I didn't have any money. My credit cards were maxed out. What was I do? And I was like, what if I had a restaurant instead of being a coach? And I was feeling ashamed for investing in courses and coaching and software, and like I should do everything myself. I should do it all for free. And it was like, what if I had a restaurant? Would I be embarrassed that I paid for menus, that I bought in fruit and vegetables, that I bought chairs? Would I expect to be making tons of money when almost no one had reviewed me, when I'm 4 months into my business? Yeah. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also want to say, I think it's never too late to start a new business. I don't think anyone is too old. Right now I'm 33. I'm still pretty young, right? But I started my last business at 26. I started my last business at 25 or 26. And what that means for me is it's such a big difference in terms of what I can actually handle. My business coach is 25, and we talk about this a lot because, as you said, it takes time. And if you're 23, that might mean that it takes 16 hours out of a day. If you're 33, it might take 4 hours a day for several weeks, months, or years. And that's not only okay. I mean, you can't run yourself to, this is what we were saying about the healers and the spiritual community. You can't run yourself to overwhelm and expect to be excellent.
Yeah.
You really can't. Are you going to have to do some things you don't want to do? Sometimes when I'm sending, I still, to protect the privacy of my clients, I still send the recordings out myself, not an assistant. Nobody on my team does that. I do it. And, at the end of a day of client calls, do I really want to sit there and write out all of those emails and all of those questions? And I'm like, no. So sometimes, yeah, I have to do a little bit more than I want to do for that day. I'm not saying, be some princess that never gets uncomfortable. But age ain't nothing but a number, but like where you are in your life and how you feel and how you can manage your energy, like that plays an important part. And I think it's really powerful to know that about yourself. Similar to, we were saying, know what you bring to the table, also know your limitations. And sometimes you don't get to have your pick, right? If it's your first year in coaching, you don't know anyone, you didn't have an audience, you didn't have, you might not get to say, I personally, me, Rae Dohar, I don't start working until 11 and I stop at around 5. I do work 6 days a week, to be fair, to be fully transparent, but those are the hours in which I work, and I rarely go outside of that. But when I was starting, if a client couldn't see me until 8 o'clock at night, I did that. When I was starting, I would give people free coaching in exchange for testimonial. I didn't do that. It was never necessary for me, if I'm completely honest. It wasn't. But I have coached clients if they felt called to do that. If you're in the beginning and it's like you want to do an extended payment plan, or somebody's not going to pay you, or somebody's not going to pay you as much so that they can have it, you can have a testimonial. I don't want to say never do that, because I also think getting, kind of too entitled too soon, know your worth, but also know your community, you got to know both. You have to have a self-awareness of where you are. And I don't, this is really hard, because I also see a lot of new entrepreneurs that are like, I'm a social media consultant, and you have 216 followers on Instagram. And it's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to invest 10 grand in you right now, because I don't see what you can do. I mean, maybe this person has a portfolio, maybe they had a corporate portfolio and they can leverage that, and that's fine. That's maybe, I used to work for Coca-Cola, or I used to, fine. But I think, yeah, it's important to have both. Really know what you bring to the table, really know what your limitations are, and really understand the amount of leverage you have within your industry, and just be realistic about all of those things. And if that means it's going to take you 8 years to make your first 6 figures, that's, you know, better late than never, right? Like, who's going to turn their nose up at $100,000?
Mm. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been great. For anyone listening, we don't really know each other. Like, I feel so comfortable and seen in your presence. You're such a beautiful soul. I feel so honored.
Thank you. Where's your, in which sign is your sun? Can I ask?
Oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn sun, Virgo moon.
Okay.
So yes, everything in my life is organized by color.
Oh, sorry, the connection was just a bit. Yeah. Now you're back?
I'm here.
Okay. Your the video is frozen, but I think I can hear your voice.
Oh no, I hope I'm frozen super cute.
Yeah, it's getting better, I think. I guess
Okay.
it's a sign to slowly come to an end. But before, I would like to ask a question that I ask everybody, and I would like to know, and I mean, maybe, I just asked, no? So the question is, I would like to know what worked out very, very well for you recently. Celebrate success with us.
I guess last month was my biggest month ever in my business, which is really cool and exciting. And I got to hire a new team member, which was also really cool and exciting. And actually what I'm working on right now with my coach is practicing celebrating myself. So that's great.
Nice. Yeah. That's amazing. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you feel is worth sharing? Like, do you think we talked about so many things, but is there
right? I was like, I have not shut up for 2 hours. Oh my goodness.
That's why I invited you.
So true.
There's something else on your heart you think that wants to be shared? Yeah.
No, it's such a pleasure to be here. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I'm so inspired, and I'm sure for everybody who's gonna listen, like, this is such a great piece of content. Thank you so much for coming and for trusting me. Yeah. All right, and we will put everything in the show notes, nah? If people want to hear you talking even more, they can join your Instagram. They can maybe join your Facebook group. I don't know if they are open or how they can.
Yeah, my Wild Embodiment is my Facebook experience where we talk about reimagining all things sex and relationships. So I do, a couple live streams in there a week. I don't know when this will be published, but we are soon going to be doing a 5-day challenge, 5 days to magnetic sexual confidence. I'm always in there though, I'm a real live person who's always in there commenting. We play a lot of games. We play Never Have I Ever. We play Truth or Dare. It's a really fun, incredibly active Facebook group because I think sex and relationships, it's very hard for people to talk about, and a lot of the discourse is very heavy. And I wanted a place that felt light and fun and easy. And like, we talk about real shit too. So you can find us there at facebook.com/groups/wild embodiment. And then I'm on Instagram under my name, Rae Dohar, soon to be on YouTube under also my name, Rae Dohar. And my website, raedohar.com, is getting a bit of a facelift right now, but it exists and you can buy shit there, and you can email me. So
awesome. Rae Dohar, thank you for existing. That was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. Thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself, to receive some knowledge, to learn from the experience of others. I really hope you liked this episode. If you feel called, you can leave me a comment about what inspired you. Maybe we can also talk about what triggered you, what helped you, what was surprising for you. Whatever you want to share about this episode, I am super curious to hear from you. Contact me on Instagram. You will see a post with this certain episode, and underneath that in the comment section we can all share our thoughts about it. Yes, another thing that I would like to ask you is please go ahead and forward this episode to your community, to your family and friends, to people who you think could benefit from listening to this. And then if you want to give something back to me, you can go to Apple Podcasts and give me a really, really, really good 5-star what's the word? Scheiße. What's the word, Mantika? Review. Give me a review. Thank you.